So welcome back, everyone, to the Content Matters podcast. I think we skipped last month, which is okay because we've managed to catch Mark Kilens finally for our November podcast. Mark is the CEO and the co-founder of TACK, a media network and GTM firm, which he co-founded with Nick Bennett. And I actually remember Nick Bennett from when he used to do a lot of LinkedIn commenting when he worked for Alice. And then I know he went back to AirMeet. He was at AirMeet for a while, which you were also the CMO of. But so yeah, I listen to him a lot, and I listen to you a lot on LinkedIn. But TACK is an interesting company. There's 3 elements to it. You have your Club PF, which is your membership community. You have your brand new media network, which you call the HBO of B2B GTM, which I kind of think is cool. And then you have your on-demand GTM services, which you call Uber for GTM leaders. So you kind of have a really nice term that you put around everything that you do that makes people understand or get a real understanding of what that stuff is. So welcome, Mark. I really appreciate you being with me today. I know we've kind of had to negotiate schedules a little bit to get this to finally happen, but I am really excited to talk about people-based go-to-market with you.
Yeah, thank you, Barb. And I apologize for the scheduling conflicts, and it's great to finally have the conversation with you. And content marketing, as many folks know, is at this very interesting point in its evolution. It's at this inflection point. I actually think all of kind of go to market from at least a B2B standpoint, maybe you could argue B2C is at this inflection point. So happy to unpack all of that. And yeah, we're excited. We're excited about, TACK, and my background is definitely very content, product marketing heavy. So happy to kind of share lessons from the past as well.
Yeah, I actually have a good question for you that comes from your HubSpot days. So that's really cool. Okay, but let's get started with a definition first of what is people-based go-to-market.
Yeah. People first go to market is a way. It's a business strategy, but it's specifically a way to create, capture, and convert demand into revenue using relationships and partnerships as the 2 primary mechanisms to achieve those kind of 3 jobs, if you will: the creation, the capture, and the conversion of demand into more revenue. And we built the idea, and then subsequently this model. We're actually building a whole online course about it soon that will be in Club PF. But it came from Nick's time, my time at all of these past companies, studying things that are going on in the lives of people, and also how the companies themselves have been succeeding and also not succeeding at achieving those 3 jobs. Because initially in the past, Barb, it's kind of like, hey, capture demand. And then inbound marketing came out and said, hey, you actually, to capture demand, you need to give something of value in exchange for that capture of demand. And now it's even a step above that, which is you actually to create value and create this demand before you're probably in a really great position to capture it into revenue. And then we've come to realize, and this is not new by any means, but I think it's become super relevant because of economic conditions in the last few years, that we really need to, as marketers, focus on taking the demand that we've captured and converting it into more demand, which means you need to turn a customer into an advocate, into just a believer for life, a super fan. So yeah, it's gotten more complicated, to say the least.
Yeah. And I was looking at your model on your website of what's comprised of people-based go-to-market. People first. Sorry, I keep saying people-based. I don't know
Oh, it's all
why.
good.
People first go-to-market. And it's made up of all these other go-to-market models. And that was just because, and that's kind of what I was trying to understand is, so it's kind of an overarching framework that comprises all these other things that the company has to do to kind of make it work.
Yeah, and exactly, it could be a very adaptable and based off of your stage of the company. Like, is it just getting started, or is it like, it's got $1 billion in revenue? Based off the stage, based off of the product you sell and the audience you sell that product or products to, you will pick different things to focus on. There are, like, to your point, there are 7 different kind of growth motions, growth models within the overall approach of people first go to market. And only until you get to a certain point, you're going to do all seven. Most
Right.
companies start with two, three, and might take years for them to do more than just those, say, three or four different things out of all seven. So, for an example, um, most companies today who are getting started, don't have the luxury of building free tools and free products, also creating a lot of great content, also doing a lot of events, right? Those are the three primary ways to build trust with people these days. You offer something of value through content, media education, whatever you want to call it, through your events, in person, online, webinars, whatever, and free tools, a traditional PLG motion or just kind of free tools that people can use. Realistically, though, a company, again, that's early, but even a company that might have millions of dollars in revenue still don't have the means to do all of those things. So find the thing that makes sense for your audience, your product, and where you are as a company and your growth ambitions, and like lean into that. And then we can unpack the channels potentially. There's three different channels, but we tried to take all these terms that people were saying, Barb, in the B2B space, in the go-to-market space, and say, like, here's mentally how you can get your head around them. And if you mentally get your head around them and think about different examples of how other companies are using them and how yours could use them, it could hopefully help you get a bit closer to moving from this kind of company first, go to market alone, you know, be be more like representing the brand in the market versus go to market together with other people and other companies, make it less transactional, make it more relationship based, and do it in a way that's more coming from the voice and the point of view of people that like represent the brand versus the brand putting itself out there only.
Yeah. Do you think that like I think that there are probably companies that would go out there, sit out there and go, well, we do this, Mark. We do the event-based marketing. We have a community. We do all this content marketing. We create all these ebooks and white papers and blogs, but it's not working for us. Like is there if the picture is more, yeah, you can do this and you can do this and you can do this and you can do little pockets, but if you're not bringing it all together and kind of looking at it all together, it's not you're not going to make it work the way you think it should.
It's a great point. Two things on that, and at least initially, that come to mind. One is definitely might not be bringing it all together, but they also might not be doing it in partnership with their customers, with other people, maybe other brands. But they're doing those things from a brand point of view. I'm publishing all this content, but the brand is publishing the content. Versus no, 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 no. The new blog article is to go to to create zero click content for some type of social network. It doesn't have to be LinkedIn, it could be anything. And that's instant distribution. Over time, you can take that content you publish to those social networks and turn that into blog content that sits on your website and blog. And maybe you can do that for long-term SEO benefits or discoverability. But the old way is the inverse of that. Publish it on your website, then distribute it. No, start with first, go to the communities, a la community-led growth, the places, the conversations that are happening, publish, and then probably syndicate that back onto your website.
And does the community have to be your own built community, or it can be any community that you have a relevant kind of relationship with?
Anything. And that's where community is a tough word to use because the way we think about community-led growth, it's any place online or in person where conversations and engagements happening, which is community building, if you will, right? So
Yeah.
it's the unowned, it's the rented places, and then in the way we think about it, after that, the next kind of channel that you would want to use is, to your point, like an owned community where you're pulling people into your brand and creating a special moment where they become a member of the brand. Very common in B2C, and you can deliver them with more value, um, as they move further down, hopefully, the journey to becoming a customer.
Yeah. So, okay, so when did you kind of first start seeing the people first model? Like, I mean, you were VP of marketing for HubSpot. You helped create the academy, right? The HubSpot Academy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that is kind of what a lot of what you want people to do today to create kind of that content for that relationship. When is that when you kind of first started seeing all this stuff? Because that was, and I'm not aging you, but that was a long time ago in marketing, the marketing world anyway.
Yeah, no, I definitely the member-led growth idea, which is part of the whole model, definitely came from my time at HubSpot. We replicated that same thing at Drift with a very good degree of success. So yeah, it's using content, media, and education. Like, you could say media is content education. You could say content is education, whatever, right? Semantics. But um, I do believe that you're moving from a content marketing strategy to a content led growth strategy, because content, when deployed in the right ways, um, is just a tremendous source of intent signals and first party data. And in the past, most people thought about using content marketing as, again, coming from the voice of the brand, you publish it on your website, it's for SEO, it's for conversion. Now it's for community building.
Yeah.
Now it's about creating this demand, creating the conversation, and how you actually turn interest where people are consuming your content into demand capture has changed. For me, the one of the best things you can do, it's not the only thing, but one of the best things you can do is create a simple experience where people can get all of the valuable content you've created with one sign up experience. And that's it. Instead of having like form after form after form or ungating all your content and making it hard to find, give them just one door into your content ecosystem. That's member led growth coupled with content led growth. And they're going to get access to a plethora of value. And then from it, all the times you see them clicking around and consuming that content, and this is where the software needs to catch up a bit, you can personalize outreach. You can do warm outbound. You can do all these different things. But to me, I think the delivery of content in the traditional resource center standpoint, we didn't do that at HubSpot, for at least Academy, because we thought there was a better way.
Yeah. It's definitely kind of an old style way that pretty well every website I've ever been to, they still have the resource center. I mean, I still work with clients that say, we need a resource center. We just want to list our blog and our white papers and our ebooks. And I hate doing it because I feel like they should go by topics and they should mix in by topics on your website with your products. And that's just, there's better ways to do that than just to plop everything in a resource center.
Yeah, because the resource center doesn't allow for conversation and engagement to happen. So if you build
Right.
something where there's like at least the content, but then there can also be like connection at the very least, where people can connect with one another and conversation can take place. Um, and you also would put all of your events in this type of experience, right? Event replays or even live events. Like, it just centralizes everyone's attention instead of like trying to find something on your website. They still might find it through search or social. That's going to point people back to this page. And look, like, some people argue, well, like, that's too much of an extreme approach. Then I say, well, have both. Still allow people to maybe download some of this content, but the benefit for them, if they see it on your landing page, is, hey, by the way, you can sign up for an account and get all this piece of content plus 20 others, and never have to fill out another form. And when you actually look at that approach where you give kind of both options, and you could still ungate your content too. Like, look, have all this content ungated, but hey, by the way, if you want to get the whole collection plus these other benefits, become a member. I've never seen a conversion number dramatically go down. They basically the same, or they go up, because you're giving people optionality and how they want to consume information.
I actually like that idea because I've never really thought of even if you don't have it like a community in the sense of a Slack channel community or something like that, you can still build a community by giving them access to all your information, all your content, and all the stories and things you want to talk about. But I've never really thought about saying, here, just sign up here to become a member of our kind of community and stay in touch with all the stuff. And here's all the stuff you can get access to. I
It's
like
one of
that
the
idea.
fastest paths. That's how we built a community, at least a node in the HubSpot community with HubSpot Academy, right? Like, it started through content and education, and then that blossomed into a ton of different things. So same with Drift Insiders, right? I think that's like, that's a really good observation you just had there, because that to me is where people are missing the connection between content, the conversations that should happen, and community building.
Yeah. And I think a lot of companies are still caught with content marketing being just a little marketing job, creating blogs and white papers and ebooks and publishing them out and kind of half-ass, sorry, that's my language,
No,
half-ass
it's
distributing them across the internet, and there's no real central view of, and that it's not just a marketing thing. There's so much content about the product or about the customer stories, about the service and stuff that should all be kind of mixed together to create a real picture of how you want to create and use content.
100%. And I think that that's the difference between like a content marketer kind of does today, which is probably going to be replaced in many ways by AI, versus a content led growth marketer who is going to use AI but be very thoughtful about still the content they create and make it better and come from the voice of people. But then they think about how to use that content through this community led and member led, even customer led channels. And so they're thinking both strategically in how to distribute it and get it into the minds and hearts of the right people, while also creating better content because of the AI. If you're just a content marketer for creating content or a content writer, yeah, I'm not saying your job's gonna be completely replaced, but like I think the content marketing profession is definitely gonna evolve.
Yeah, it's ripe for disruption right now, I think. Been around a long time, and that's a funny thing to say actually, but it has, thanks to Joe Pulizzi and Robert Rose. But it's definitely ripe for a disruption right now.
Yep.
So you keep talking, you keep kind of keep bringing up AI, and but also talking relationships. Is there any kind of concern that there's kind of two opposing things? Like, what do you see the AI helping with to build and kind of improve on relationship building?
Yeah, so I think AI is gonna help with a term that I wrote about like 4 years ago. I don't know if I can take credit for it fully. I don't think I can. I definitely can't, because I remember doing research around this. But creative intelligence. My instinct is AI is going to elevate everyone's creative intelligence, CQ. Um, and there's a lot of these different quotients, right? The most common ones are like IQ and EQ, but there's like 4 or 5 other ones. And To me, AI, when used from like a marketing standpoint and a sales standpoint, is going to help you come up with um, more specific and better ideas for your audience that you're trying to go after, and help you engage that audience in different ways that ultimately hopefully result in this other acronym that's also AI, which is authentic interactions.
Hmm.
So if you take creative intelligence and you're using that with AI to help you deliver what people ultimately care about the most, which is authenticity and the interaction that they feel and have with the brand, that's where I see hope and promise. We'll see. It's I don't so much to figure out, to see what actually sticks, but my instinct is telling me that.
Yeah, and then that's it's all changing so fast, right? Because what was it, 2 months ago, maybe everybody was saying you have to learn to be an AI prompt engineer, and now nobody's talking about that anymore, right? Like,
Yeah.
because so what's going on with AI and how you can leverage it to really do your job really well is changing every day, and it's just impossible to keep up with.
I have like 3 or 4 newsletters, maybe up to even 5 or 10, somewhere between 5 and 10 newsletters that curate all of my AI kind of knowledge, which then allows me to, if I want to go down a rabbit hole on the internet, I can like click into and start to go down a deep rabbit hole. But yeah, you got to find your like kind of trusted places to learn about this stuff, and ultimately, I mean, you have to at least play with it. I've played with some AI. I have not played with a ton. Probably should be playing with more, but I also am trying to balance like signal to noise. It's like but then like, look, if I was like, hey, I believe in this so much that I'm going to build a whole kind of product or business around it, that's a different story. Someone that I know just announced, I think yesterday, that he's created this great positioning and this great product offering when it comes to using AI to help companies scale out how they use visuals, images, etc., um, to get someone to really like uh, feel that like that brand, right? I'm not doing it justice because I just saw it yesterday, but like that's a very interesting business model, right? It's AI first. Differentiated positioning, where it's not about like I'm AI, like that's not the positioning. It's about how do we help businesses create a more human version of themselves at scale without like risking the idea of it's going to take so much time to create all these images and they're not going to be consistent or aligned with the brand ethos. That's
Yeah,
pretty cool.
definitely sounds really interesting. And you can do the same thing with content, I think.
You could.
written content anyway. Okay, so let's talk about your company TACK. Um, you are actually following your own people first go to market model.
You have to. I mean, if you preach something like this and you don't follow it, that's just bad. It's like HubSpot doing like all of their revenue creation from outbound marketing versus inbound marketing, you know?
Yeah. So what made you decide, because the media network is new. It's only a couple of months old. What made you decide to build that? Because there's a lot of work involved in not just setting it up. I know you have a great partner in, I think it's Audience Plus. Um, they're the software that you're on top of, and another partner. But how do you create all that content? Because there's a lot of visual, because Demand Base has a and Terminus, they all created their live streaming or their streaming services, and you don't hear anything about them anymore.
Mm.
So it's like it's an awesome idea, but there's so much work involved in keeping one going that I wonder how you're going to do it.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. It's a belief system, and actually, the partner, our most important partner with everything is share your genius. So, Audience Plus is the software. We love them; they're great. Share your genius, though, is what powers that network. And Rachel, the CEO of the company, look them up. They are just incredible people, amazing team. They are the ways in which we're going to be able to hopefully scale out production. But it's being thoughtful too, right? So to go back to your kind of big observation and point, it's consistency. Most of what marketing just is these days is consistency. A lot of it, right? So that's also rooted in the idea of, do you believe in this thing for the long term, or is it going to be like a 6 or a 12-month project? And it's like, I don't like look at HubSpot Academy, right? That is a long term. That's like
Yeah.
investment, right? That's a 60-person team now. Brian and Dharmesh, I had a great partnership with them, and they believed in it so much, and so did so many other people at HubSpot, and that's the reason why it's so successful. You have to believe, right? And if you look at kind of what's happened with Drift Insider, some of that strong belief, if you will, wasn't fully there. And when people start to leave the company, it might start to wane. But like HubSpot Academy, completely different story. It was not a chance. So to me, it kind of goes back to, ultimately it's the CEO, but ultimately it's, what's your belief for how you're going to create a lovable, durable brand, an enduring brand. And I believe it is this idea of content-led growth, and it's the idea of using media and education to create demand, and then to turn that demand into revenue. And so the media network for us is a way to help people talk about and share their points of views when it comes to anything marketing, sales, and customer success. So it's going to be a platform where we partner with real people and help them bring their expertise, their stories, their passions to life through media. And we want to align this to brands, right? We're going to have some brand partnerships be announced next year. So there'll be ways we can monetize this and make money, but ultimately it's a way to help people get an unbiased as possible view of new ways to think about go to market, but using formats and coming from people that they can really connect with.
Yeah. Can you run out of ideas? That's kind of a question. I listen to, I'm on LinkedIn all the time. I see everybody talking, but a lot of the conversations tend to sound the same, and it's because I'm a marketer and I'm listening to other marketers. And I guess you can only say things so many different ways. But I just wonder, when you're building like a media network, can you run out of ideas to talk about go to market?
I don't think so, because there's so many stories that have never been told in public forums. I don't think so. I feel like this goes back to AI. I think AI is going to unlock creative intelligence. So I don't see that day coming, maybe ever, personally. Unique ideas, maybe, but I still have like hope that that's where AI is going to be able to help. Like, like help us find the idea that we had 3 years ago and be like, wait a minute, you should go back to that idea now and like do something with it. I mean, that would
Yeah.
be, we all have that, right? So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, the short answer is I don't think so. I think it comes down more to like your conviction and the strength you have to keep it going. And like, there's gonna be great months, there's gonna be some like not so good months, but you need to do it through partnerships. Like if Nick and I tried to do that alone, Barb, like there's no way we could do it. But because we have Share Your Genius and we have Audience Plus, we have a high degree of confidence it's going to work. Plus, not to mention the amazing people that are actually doing the shows, like Danny and Andy and Brian and Rachel. That's the first batch of people that are participating in the network. You need to have all those things, working, together.
Yeah, definitely. And I almost think that maybe that's a smarter thing for brands to do, to sponsor someone else who's doing it and bringing all those unique voices together, as opposed to trying to going off and doing something similar all by themselves. Even though they might have lots of great voices in their company, it's still a big effort to kind of keep it going, like you said, and be consistent with it.
Big effort, and it's a big investment. But this goes to the idea of like amplified marketing. Shout out to Casted. Casted is this podcast and video marketing platform, and you have owned media, you have like rented channels. You put those two circles together. In the middle is amplified marketing. How do you amplify your own media? How do you amplify them also? And how you amplify what you're saying on your rented channels, and bring this kind of idea of like amplification. So that's where I think a lot of brands also don't do a good job of like getting like just getting as much value as they can out of each asset they create. Now with AI, it's going to become more and more possible and more easy to do so. So that's good. But so I'm bullish on that piece of AI too. And just giving people snackable, micro format types of content.
Yeah. Is it hard for companies to kind of build an audience first? Because that's something that you said companies need to do, build their audience first. Is that hard to do? How do you do that without, when you've got executives up behind you saying leads, MQLs, get me people in the door for my sales people to talk to?
It can be. So when I say, if you're literally starting from scratch, you build an audience to then find your first, say, 20 design partners. And design partners is kind of a newish term, but you can have design partners for your content, for your events, for your products. And those design partners would arguably be like qualified leads, right? Like qualified buyers, if not customers. So if you're doing that type of thinking with that approach, saying, look, I'm building a minimal viable audience, and then hopefully going to keep growing it as we learn about product fit and the market and what content we should build, etc. But we're doing that in partnership, which is, in my opinion, an aspect of partner-led growth with the people, the audience that is resonating with this point of view and story. And we're partnering with them to help us refine and better understand what we're building, either from, again, a product standpoint, a content standpoint, or an event standpoint. To me, that's a great investment, because you're building a mini funnel. You're building a top of funnel. You're building this middle of the funnel, and then with these design partners, some of them, will hopefully become paying customers. Like, hey, buy the product, and here you go. So, and I think you could do that for any type of product. If the company's super mature and you want to do this because you're going into a completely different persona or industry or vertical or whatever, you could take the same type of approach.
Yeah.
And now with the power of having access to so many people so fast, you're not going to do that through blogging first. You're going to do that through posting content. It's still content, but posting content into communities, into these places like we talked about, right? That engage, that get the conversation started, that get the connections built, and then you can start to translate that maybe into your owned media, owned content strategy.
Yeah. Okay. So if a company came to you and said, I want to do this, Mark, but I have no idea how to get started, what would you kind of say to them? How would you start?
So we have 8 steps, actually. There's 8 steps. You can check it out on our website. We have this infographic. Step number 1 is what I was just alluding to, is write down your story. What do you believe? Why do you believe it? What's your point of view? Like, to me, not enough businesses do that. Like, for example, if you listen to Shark Tank, you can tell which businesses do that when they pitch in the Shark Tank. Did you watch Shark Tank at all? Like,
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
And Dragon's Den in Canada.
Yeah. Okay. I haven't seen that, but yes, 100%. I love that. So you can tell, right? Like you can listen to what those founders are saying and how they're saying it and the stories they're telling. And that's where it all starts. Like do that. From there, what you're trying to do is trying to find that minimal viable audience by publishing that, or I hate to use the word publish, it's too heavy, but by sharing that story with people that you think are going to resonate with it, that we're like, yes, I see myself in that story, or like that is so interesting. And that's like your initial audience kind of formation, right? And you do that ideally through partnering with someone to help you maybe jumpstart that process too. You say like, look, you're a trusted advisor, trusted person in this group of people that we're trying to build a product for. Hey, what do you think about this story? Do you believe in it? Do you like it? Oh, okay, give us feedback. Hey, would you be willing to do like an online webinar or event, something small with us about it? That starts to build that momentum. And then within that, you start to like figure out, okay, how should I position a question or two to see who else who joins this thing might want to be part of, the email list that I'm trying to build initially, right? Just it's building up that small audience. And then within that audience, you're starting to find those design partners to help you refine more and more of what you're thinking. But it's all rooted in my opinion, that differentiation when it comes to like what you believe and why. Like what's the undeniable things that are necessitating you to have this observation, to put this on like paper, to have this point of view that then gets down to the problem that you're ultimately trying to solve for someone, because that's where you're actually going to make money.
So I really like the idea of working with partners, which can be kind of make up all kinds of different people and companies and whatever, to kind of really understand what are the things that you need to talk about and what are the things you want to share, and to get them to help you do that. I really like that kind of thinking. And that's the near bound too, right? That's another new term that's showing up that is the same as partner led, but it's just another word for it.
100%. Yeah, I'm very close to the Narrowbound team. We helped them produce their event that was a huge success last week, the Narrowbound Summit. When I was at AirMeet, we were a big partner. They used AirMeet again as their flagship, platform to host it. But you're absolutely right. Narrowbound and partner led are very similar. It's like, how do you surround? Right? It's like this idea of surrounding um, a customer, an account, um, with messaging, people, offers, um, probably other things, but like at least those three things to ultimately, build build the trust, that you need to show, instead of saying I'm gonna just target you with like almost cold outbound, which used to work decently well because people didn't know all of these things. Now there
Yeah.
was digital channels were less, right? Like there's less businesses. I think that's the other thing people don't talk about. Like one undeniable trend is there's just more people and businesses who can create, I hate to use the term, but I'm going to say noise on the internet.
Yeah.
There's more of that now. So that's the reason why we're in this attention economy, right? Race to someone's attention.
Yeah, and AI is really kind of making that go even bigger and louder. And yep. All right. I don't know, how do you do it? How do you run a two-person company and kind of keep on top of this? What made you decide to leave like the world of working for another company as a CMO to kind of take this on with Nick and do it on your own?
Just a lot of signals, like these trends of like, content explosion, channel saturation, CAC is going up. Um, I got a lot of friends that are, go to market leaders, and they're all looking for new ways to hire people and grow their business. So both like better strategies, better approaches, talent. There's a gap. I think there isn't anyone in B2B that's at the HBO of B2B go to market. There's no one you turn to,
No.
right?
Yeah.
So I think there's a gap that we can fill. Yeah, I just feel like there's a lot of education that needs to be done. I look at HubSpot Academy; they're still teaching amazing things. Love HubSpot Academy. What the difference I'd say between HubSpot Academy and like say Club PF is you already kind of know a lot of the stuff that people or you might have learned in HubSpot Academy. Now it's like, how do you take what you're learning to a whole nother level with, which is, I'm going to think about go to market more holistically and not just focus on say one discipline, say marketing or something very specific within marketing.
Yeah.
So you still need both. And we're trying to help people get into their like kind of peak go to market fitness, if you will, right? Like their peak potential and kind of equating it to like Equinox, that really, nice gym and membership experience where, they help people get into top, top performance. So like, let's help you get into top go to market performance, but you need a foundation. And that's where something like HubSpot Academy is super valuable. And I just don't think anything like that really exists either, where like there's a community for people who want to believe in this new, want to believe in this new way. That's like-minded people, but also you want to push yourself to really learn the latest and most in-demand skills. Because I can tell you for sure that these skills are in demand, and they're not teaching them really anywhere.
No, I would not argue that at all. I think we are so behind in what we teach people who are in the business already and who are trying to get into the business. We are not teaching them what they need to know. That's true.
Yeah, that's why we built the HubSpot Education Partner Program inside of HubSpot and HubSpot Academy. That program is thriving now, and they have this amazing job now of like partnering with thousands of schools and universities across the world to bring in like the latest things to teach people marketing, sales, software. Like it's, if I was in school and had that opportunity, it would be amazing. Cause then you'd say, well, like, yeah, I use HubSpot software. I learned these things that are relevant. I actually did hands-on practical examples, maybe got an internship, and like I'm part of that big ecosystem versus coming out of school and you're not part of an ecosystem or community. You're kind of like, again, cold start.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. You have a lot of sailing pictures on your website. Is there a connection between go to market and sailing?
I used to sail when I was younger. I used to race some sailboats. The name "tack" though is a sailing term. It also means hello and goodbye in Swedish, I believe.
Okay.
Tack means a lot of different things. But yeah, I mean sailing. It's like they call it like, hey, we're about to tack and or find your tack, and it's the idea of getting the boat in the best position with how the direction the wind's coming from, and aligning those two things up for maximum efficiency potential. So that's kind of with business, right? Like help you as a business leader or as a business overall find your right tack, find the tailwind, stop trying to go right up against this wind, and there's a lot of pressure and it's causing you to not have the right momentum or right have the right course. We will help you tack over and over again as things change, as different pressures get put onto your business. That's our promise.
I like that. Okay, I like that a lot. That's really cool. So, okay, final question, because I always do this to everyone I bring in. I ask them a kind of a silly question to close off the podcast. Yours is kind of tricky because you don't talk a lot about yourself online anywhere, about your personal life. So it's hard to kind of find something that's not work related. But on your Twitter or X, I should start getting used to saying that. It says that you love sailing and golf. And so I was just curious to know, have you ever golfed when you're on a sailboat? Like, it's
That
a
would be
silly
tremendous.
question.
I've not been on a sailboat big enough for me to golf off the stern of it, but yeah, no, that would be pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you had to choose right now, like which one would you rather do? Go golfing or go sailing?
Right now, I would pick sailing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So cool to be out on the water. That would be awesome.
It is, yeah, yeah. I have some young kids, and they're kind of getting into both. It's tough though. It's like tough to sail with young kids because there's a lot going on. A sailboat, no matter how small it is, right? It's there's a lot going on a
Yeah.
sailboat. So
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, thank you, Mark. This was a really great conversation. I probably had a million more questions, but we left it there. That's funny for today. I don't want to drive you too crazy. So I do appreciate you joining us, though, and I'm glad we finally got a chance to talk.
no, likewise. Thank you for all the questions. Thank you for being so patient with me and having me on the show. I loved it, and yeah, happy to have the conversation again at some point.
All right, great. I look forward to it. Okay, so thank you to Ingenix, who is the sponsor of the Content Matters podcast, a leading player in the field of content management and customer experience. if you're looking for customer portals, documentation, knowledge base, hubs, websites, and any kind of self-service customer experience, Ingenix has the technology that you might be interested in looking at. So I would suggest that you drop over to ingenix.com and check it out and sign up for the newsletter. I help create the newsletter with them, so we try to get as much really good content out to people as possible. And then just finally, I don't usually ask, but I don't know why I don't ask, but I'd love it if you're listening or watching at any point before or after to leave a comment or a rating on the podcast, just so that I know and that we know at Ingenix that you're enjoying what you're listening to and that we should keep doing it. So, so great. With that, again, thanks very much for joining us today. And thank you, Mark. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Take care.